All right, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About Human Rights, the show in which we discuss all things related to human rights. I'm your host, Jules Allender, and I am part of the California chapter of Youth for Human Rights International. Youth for Human Rights International's purpose is to help educate everyone on what human rights are, specifically the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and more importantly, inspire the youth of today as our leaders of tomorrow to stand up for these rights. For each show, we like to take up one right and try to broaden your understanding of how this right is important to you and your loved ones. For today's show, we'll be looking at human right number 24, which states, everyone has the right to rest and leisure, including reasonable limitation of working hours and periodic holidays with pay. Let's take a look at a short video on this human right. The right to play, the right to enjoy what you are doing, to be a part of something, to contribute, to have a voice in what you are doing, to just do something for the pure enjoyment of it. Let's examine these ideas a little more closely. This is a pretty simple sounding right, the right to play. Sounds fair and reasonable, but there are places in the world that for many different reasons, this simple idea can be made very scarce. It could be because you are being underpaid, so in order to afford the basic necessities of food and shelter for life, you just can't get time off. Or even in extreme circumstances, because the employer can exploit someone, they do, and just work them until that employee can no longer function. Scattered around the world, including here in the United States, we see these exploitations occurring either personally or on shows like this or in magazines. It is not pleasant to see and even worse to experience, but there are some very positive reasons and beneficial reasons for you and your employer to ensure that you have some leisure time, some playtime. It has to do with the spirit of play. I'm not talking about being involved in a child's game. I'm talking about the right to bring your own sense of joy and accomplishment to work and to everything you do. Employees that do this are more productive and more creative at their job. They take more responsibility for their work and the work around them. Having fun doing what you are doing does not mean you are not serious or courageous. It only really means you are not a slave. You are there because you want to be. You are getting something done because you want it done. Life tends to beat up this idea. Tiny failures like missed deadlines or small mistakes all can make work harder than it needs to be. If you do physical labor and work past the point of exhaustion or without sleep, food, I'll give that to you again, without enough food or sleep, again, simple tasks that are quite normally easy to perform become gargantuan barriers and start a person down a path of working because they have to, rather than because they want to. Some time off allows one's body to recuperate and for the individual to recover. It is also important to have time off from work to enjoy other aspects of your life in any capacity that you might decide upon. That could be enjoying a sport, or reading a book, furthering your education, or just sitting on the beach. Any individual seeks to survive and experience life in many directions, not just one. Family, friends, church, to name a few. Artistic endeavors is another. The individual who only works and does not experience these other areas of life is an unhappy individual. Putting your own creativity into all aspects of your life and your work is you exercising your right to play. My guest today is Barbara Cordova. She is an artist who puts a lot of spirit of play into her work. She has created an international network of artists using their creativity to make a better world. She is the founder, president, and one of the executive directors of Artists for a Better World and has created with her staff an international network of artists who uplift, inspire, and create positive change in society through social media, events, and special projects, as well as the support of top social betterment groups. With that, I would like to welcome our very special guest to the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Jules.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Well, you have an interesting approach to bettering conditions. How did you come up with this idea?
Well, as an artist myself, nearly all my life, songwriter primarily and writer, I realized at an early age that it wasn't enough for me to just do my own art, which I thoroughly enjoy, but that artists really need a group. They tend to be loners and doing their own thing, which you have to do your own creations. But they don't have a strong team and therefore can go the effect of some of the, oppressions that artists run into. So when I was actually in my teens and I was studying the works of L. Ron Hubbard, I came up with this idea of artists needing to unite and form a strong network. And therefore, few years later, in the late 90s, Artists for a Better World was born as such a group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Was there more you wanted to say about that?
Well, just the initial phases of it, I grouped with some fellow artists and we went out to fairs to meet more artists. And we also started, along with the art, we took it to another level and also promoted some top social betterment programs because society, as you know, is very degraded. So we took the art and we also promoted some of the social betterment programs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, groups are fun to be a part of, and I think one does better in groups. I know from my own personal experience, hence being a part of, Youth for Human Rights California boosts us individually and allows us to kind of reach deeper and further and stronger.
Absolutely right. We were on the same page with that. And the artists that have joined up get more exposure as artists. They're using their art for a higher purpose, especially when we include the social betterment programs, like the Way to Happiness, Drug-Free World, and of course, Youth for Human Rights. And we have done several events that include these things in our message, and we've gotten out, thousands of books for these organizations as well. So the artist is contributing to a higher purpose there. Right. As well, of course, we do like career seminars for them, and they have other benefits, networking, gatherings and things. So we've learned over the years what the artists really need and want. And networking, hands down, has been something they want, in every survey we've done. So we make a point of also connecting them to one another. Artists like to co-create. And so when they meet one another at an event or gathering, magic happens.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so the organization has an international network. right? Can you let us know what other countries have members in them?
Oh, sure. We do have a chapter forming in Germany. We have some other European members. And I have to tell the audience a nice story. Like I went on Facebook, and one day there was a reach from the Gambia, educator from the Gambia reached out to me, and he wanted to join up with us. So as a result, his kids started doing actually a human rights program where they were drawing pictures. It was one of the human rights holidays, and they drew pictures from the different articles of human rights, submitted it to another group we were working with. And they also did what I have, it's called Get High on Art, Say No to Drugs. And they did pictures for that. And we have, as a result, gotten out like, I don't know how many, a couple thousand books that they've received to get out for human rights, Drug-Free World, and the Way to Happiness program. So by interconnecting on social media, we get reaches from around the world. So he's one of our big promoters of the social betterment programs too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Get high on art, not on drugs.
Get high on art, say no to drugs. It's one of my big it's been around for years, and we've done that. Here in the U.S., we have gone out to places like in Glendale, the Galleria there. We've done art fairs where we had kids come up to the tables and just do their little drawings. It's like draw something that encourages creation instead of doing drugs. We even have a coloring book now that's coming out. Yeah, that we want to get produced. We want to get it out to all over the place, because then the young kids can draw images of here's somebody doing art and here's someone doing drugs. They can compare the differences. That's how we, use art even with young kids.
Yeah, that's great. When I think when individuals think of art, or maybe I would say me at first, right? You think of someone who draws or who, right? There's that physical art, but artists also include singer-songwriters, performers, things of that nature. And it can look like it's a culture through social media and mass media that is inundated with drugs and that pushes drugs, right? And so to be able to have a platform in it and a stance on it, right? When someone knows the truth on what drugs does to an individual, to get high on art, which includes music and videography, right? And movies and cinema and every form, and say no to drugs, it's, you're kind of heading straight for the opposition, but it's great.
Absolutely. And that was actually born out of a book I wrote. I have a book called Mission of the Artist. And one of the characters in there actually do this. They do the project. It's a fiction book. But I took it out of my book and I put it into the real world. And now there's hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands of kids and youth that have done this project. So it's really rewarding to see, especially in the Gambia. Again, his kids are saying, I'll never do drugs, and they're having wins, just doing this program. Here in the US, we have a video of the kids just doing these drawings. Don't do drugs. They get that message. And to me, that's one of the most rewarding things, is to use the art to then get the message across, because art does penetrate. It's like a laser beam through to, through the being. We're all spiritual beings, and we all have that creative impulse. So you use that and communicate these messages, and it impinges. Yeah. And then you also rehabilitate more artists too.
Totally. Yeah. That's great. And then and on your website, you have a section on human rights.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Okay. So let me tell you about our human rights project. So basically, back in 2020, we kind of hit this area. We built up the human rights aspect of our group because everything was going down in the culture and the shutdowns and everything like that. So we started out with actually me producing a concert in Tennessee, in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, in this big park. When things were shut down, there was still this wide open field, and we produced a concert and we promoted human rights. That was our theme. We supported human rights. It's in one of our videos. So we had the concert, we had the books given out, and then we had somebody in our group, his name Taylor Pace. He's a celebrity musician. He wrote a song for us, and it was about freedom and human rights, freedom for all. And we have blasted that everywhere, like us doing the human rights, giving out the books. Then in the US here, we went to places like, again, the Glendale Galleria, let's see, Burbank Mall here, and we handed out like hundreds, up to a couple thousand books out. And we got the response from the people at the time was incredible. There was an Armenian march for freedom going on. There's something with, the Armenians had some oppression and from their past. So they were doing a big rally, and we handed out tons of human rights books. One of our artists also wrote a poem for human rights. So we take it like the extra mile with the aesthetics, and we put like a poem in our books, songs for, and that impacted really greatly.
Wow, that's incredible. And so what are some other projects or events and things that you're doing involved with the Social Betterment Grants?
Oh, we have done like tons of events and projects. Like, for instance, this is one of our newsletters here, and this says Unity Through Creativity. And this is something that is one of our themes. So basically, we did events virtually too, where artists would turn in their art or their music or their poetry, and we put together a virtual event, and we hosted that on Art Day. We celebrate Art Day every year, which is now April 15th. It's Da Vinci's birthday, and one of our members came up with this holiday many years ago, and we merged it with World Art Day. So human rights was a theme back a year or so ago, and we put it on our website with all these people from around the world turning in their art, their music, and have a virtual gallery. I mean, our site is just filled with all kinds of these projects. If you go to artistforabetterworld.art, you'll see the social betterment. You go into the news section and you'll see what we've done, like with The Way to Happiness, Drug-Free World, Human Rights. It's all over our website. So I encourage people to go and look at that and see all of our amazing artists and what they're doing.
Nice. Excellent. And then, tell us or talk to us about, I'm curious how different artists' viewpoints are, when they get involved, and maybe some successes they've had because of it and things of that nature.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So from anywhere from artists connecting to one another and using each other's services, like somebody who needs a video done and there happens to be this pro videographer, somebody who designs websites. I mean, I have used my own members, skills. My website was designed by one of our members, Tony Rockcliffe. It's an amazing job. There are artists that co-collaborate in the different art forms. There was one artist who's a poet and a painter got inspired to do this amazing painting because of his poem. There's a really cool story. There was a young Filipino member of ours he was 10 when we met him, and he knew a celebrity artist, David Pomerantz. He'd actually met him at a Filipino event, and David's one of our members. And so what happened was David heard about this young boy being a member and that he'd written a poem. So David took the poem that his name is Zach, wrote and put it on his page, and it got lots of views. So this young, kid, and then David, who's a celebrity, and, he was just thrilled to connect to him. They both were thrilled. And then David came out to Los Angeles, and he actually was performing at an event, a Filipino concert, and our young member came, and here he is, like 10 years later from when he originally met him, and they met and they took photos together. So it's like joining forces, like-minded artists of all ages, all cultures joining forces.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just love that.
Yeah, that's great. And then, so how do artists get involved with Artists for a Better World?
Well, again, we have our website. It's artistforabetterworld.art, and they can go and view everything that we do. There's a video called Artists in Call to Artists. It's us in action. They can watch the video and see who we are, what we do. And there's a membership program. So I encourage people to go there and check out the membership levels. There's benefits you get. Everybody gets a profile page in our directory, and you get to put up all your art, music, whatever you have there, links to your website. And anywhere from, $50 membership up to $10,000 if you just want to be a donor. We're a nonprofit, so all that gets used to help us expand our amazing group and pay for our events and activities and, send things to Africa and whatever we have to do. And it helps the artists because they get more exposure. So, again, artistsforbetterworld.art, it's a membership-based organization. And by the way, you don't have to be an artist to join us. We have people that are just supporters. They love the arts, they love social betterment, and they sign up as members. And they just, too, get a page to promote what they do. Some don't even want a page. They just want to support the cause. And artists will also get they can get art analyses at a certain level. They can get help with their careers. They can help. The biggest thing they need is help with marketing. Artists, I have found, they don't fully know how to market and really get their art out there. So that's something we also can help with.
Totally. And so, what have you seen with artists that have connected up and one have obviously helped for those social betterment groups, but then because they're donating to the social betterment groups, they do get these services in terms of art analysis and marketing and things of that nature. Like, what have you seen? Like, what does it do for that artist?
Oh, okay. Well, basically, there's been some that have gotten the art analysis, at a certain membership level. They get that. And it has helped them, one group that their band wasn't performing as much, and then they started getting out performing more. Another actually a celebrity artist who during the lockdowns in 2020 he was having trouble. His gigs, statistics just crashed with getting gigs, and then he got one of these analysis and he got greatly helped to get out there again and get his music going. They're different art forms. Of course, visual art is different than the music so we try to pair up that artist with somebody who can help them in their art form. And that's, like the $100 level and above. If you're a little analysis to it, $250, you get like a more full analysis. And it really helps because artists love to create, as you know, they love to just work on the creative side. But they have to be, managers of their own business to actually be able to get the art out. You can't think you're just going to paint a painting these days and just somebody's going to discover you're seeing in a local club or someone's going to come out and make you a record deal. No, we're all about social media. And if you don't know that and you don't know your different hats to wear to market yourself, it's going to be a struggle. A lot of them are in anxiety. They're struggling, right, especially these days.
Yeah. Totally. That's awesome. And so what are some upcoming events that Artists for a Better World for a Better World are involved in and what do you have coming up?
Well, we have our Florida chapter on November 4th has a get together. Again, this is a very popular item, networking, artists getting together. It's a casual thing, like share your art, bring, a poem, music, your art portfolio, one of our members' homes in the Clearwater area. And it's both for members and non-members can come that, that know us. And magic always happens from those things. Like I went to one of those, in fact, the same person's house, and I met an amazing dancer. Somebody knew this dancer, then she became part of our group. She's worked in our events and stuff. So it's like, that's a networking kind of event. We do have another event, which, we can talk about. You and I are doing
That's right.
an event together. In fact, that's how we met is I every year produce a holiday event for our group here in Florida. This year, I met up with somebody, one of the directors at the Church of Scientology says, oh, you want to do your holiday event here, which we're going to do. And says, well, that's the same time period of the anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights, and we should do an event together. So I said, that's great. We support human rights for sure. We'll theme it, freedom of expression. And then she connected me up with your group, with Youth for Human Rights. And then, the rest is history. And then you and I are putting on an event together, and you're doing the human rights portion. We're doing the talent portion. And that's on December 9th. And that'll be at the Church of Scientology, 4810 Sunset Boulevard. And so anyone wants to come, it's, reserve your spot. The first, 150 get dinner as well. And to reserve for that, they can email me if they want, afabwmail@gmail.com. Yeah. We're just trying to fill that up, get hundreds of people to that event. It's a very vital issue. And obviously, we want people to know about freedom of expression as artists, revitalize artists, and then also get involved with the human rights.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this event. I think anytime that we can educate and bring two groups together, and as you spoke about, the importance of understanding the Universal Declaration of Independence, right? It surprises me yet not how many people are uninformed about it, because I was uninformed about it fully until I got involved with Youth for Human Rights California. But when like you're saying, when you can educate someone in an area, and when we're talking about human rights and when we're talking about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we're talking about basic humanity, right? What is the foundation of everyone who lives on planet Earth that will give them the tools, the necessities, the power to live free and to be happy and to prosper? And those are human rights. And so, yeah, I'm excited anytime that, like we do every week here, but that we can talk to people and educate and inspire others to educate others, because that's how we're going to make it. And that is partly what your organization does is,
right.
Artists have a breadth of, a very large breadth where they can reach and touch many people, right?
Yes.
It's an aesthetic level. I love music and specific types of art, right? And I know when I hear someone who I respect and like, right, it impinges on me a little bit different.
Oh yeah.
And so it's amazing to me that they can take that responsibility level and reach for a better society and, more freedoms for every individual on planet Earth. So yeah, I am looking forward to it.
Right. And along with what you're saying, so the type of artists that tend to attract to our group, a lot of them we call them, better world artists. I coined that term because they have a higher purpose with their art. I mean, it's one thing to want, to paint beautiful pictures and sing pretty songs, which in itself is very therapeutic. But to take it to a higher level of using that to actually join our group and create a better world through your aesthetic form. And it's not that everyone is even promoting the social betterment groups, but by being part of our group, like being part of a very inspirational show, and they are just stepping into, that field, that area of using their art, whether they know it or not. Some are new to us, but they know it's a higher purpose. And then there are those, of course, like myself and several others, that we are fighters for freedom and for human rights. And we use our art. I've written, songs that portray that message. One is called Wake Up Call in 2020. And it was all about, the rights being taken away from, from kids, from the whole society. I was like, I got that message out. I got hundreds of people watching the video because it was like, I need to create this impact. And it woke people up,
right?
And my whole project, Mission of the Artist, that's like our theme song. And it's all about the mission the artist has. Like I've used my own music, my own writing to forward these purposes within this group. Like I haven't gone out and tried to be a famous singer, songwriter or something. I was like, no, I'm using this in the group, encouraging others. And it's just magical. I mean, our events just blow people away, like, especially when there's times of stress, like 2020 hit, or, then there's these poems going out by artists and these, magical songs of the one Taylor Pace did I mentioned. And it's like, it just like hits people to do something about it.
Right.
It totally like wakes people up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's excellent. I can attest to that, being on both ends of it, where things have like woken me up and I'm like, all right, I need to do more.
Exactly.
And I've, been fortunate enough to be able to inspire others to do more, which is a pleasure in itself. So talk to me a little bit. We're going to go ahead and for the audience, share a couple of your videos
right
at the end of the interview. Just give us a little brief description of what they are.
There's, when I mentioned Mission of the Artist, and that is kind of like, it's been the theme song for the group. It's the mission of the artist to lead the way, basically. And then there's a whole song about that. And in the video, you'll see a lot of our members there, and you'll see little flashes of some of the social betterment campaigns that we forward. So there's that based on the book I wrote. And again, that too, all of this is based on my desire to help the world become a better place. And there's also, depending on, I don't know if you have time to, the wake-up call one that I mentioned about waking people up to what's going on in the world, totally based on violation of human rights. And, you know, I don't know, there's one that our member, Taylor Pace, did about us distributing the human rights books.
Nice.
So we have several. You guys can pick what you want to play that fits in here, depending on the time. But I kind of like, you know, I like talking, but I love showing. I love showing through videos, through music, through art, you know, because of that impact. So the more of that, you know, more show than tell, because then that impacts people in a very positive way. And they can join us. This is we'll show the audience our little postcard. We have thousands of these. You know, anyone who is interested, we can send you out a little postcard, or you can just go to artistsforbetterworld.art and get on our mail list. You know, I just want to expand while we still have a chance, while this world is still here, because the violations these days are like, they're horrific, and I'm not going to
totally
bring the tone down about all that.
Yeah, well, we talk about it every week. All right, so as we get to the close of the interview, we ask every guest this final question, and that is, what is your favorite human right and why?
Well, the one that pops up is freedom of expression, because it has to do with the artist. And to me, the most important thing since I was very young is keeping that freedom of expression intact. And there's too much suppression in that area, and people, like you showed freedom, the one about place we were playing. I was just thinking all these people that work jobs they don't like, and they don't have time to, you know, create. And so it goes along with that too, but it's basically, every being is a creator of something. Everyone's an artist. It doesn't have to be a painting, a song, right? But everyone creates something. It could just be the way you dress, the way, you know, you run your business. You're a creator of something. It's your freedom of expression. And what I hate to see is people not expressing themselves the way they want to.
Yeah.
Getting caught in, you know, a grind. So everyone should have that right. And if one thing I can leave the audience with is, like, I would love to know that I've impacted somebody or many people to go out and just do that thing that you love to do, that is you, freely expressing yourself.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you what you continue to do to better society.
Thank you, Jules. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, that's our show for the week. I hope you enjoyed and learned some vital information and takeaways for about some very important topics, whether that be the right to play, freedom of expression. And if you are an artist, please do reach out to Barbara and her organization and use your art and your creativity and all the talents that you possess to make society a better place. We do need that. As always, we are always looking for potential and future guests. If you have an inspiring story or would like to be a guest on our show, please do reach out to us at letstalkabouthumanrights@gmail.com. Also, make sure you follow us on our social media platforms. Our social media handles for Facebook is Youth for Human Rights California. Our Instagram and Twitter handles are at YHRCAL. And as always, as I interview these most inspiring guests every week and hear their stories and all that they do, I wonder, what will you do with this information? How will you pass it on? And what work will you do to better society? Until next time, thank you. I will see you then.